because there are so much we can learn, and there's so much that has been given for our learning as we read through the Old Testament. Some of the passages that we read, at least the first or second passages that he covered during the gospel meeting, and the first one was here in 1 Corinthians. We read it last week, but we are just going to refamiliarize ourselves real quick. So I'll take a few volunteers and we're going to read these. We're not going to expand too much on the verses because we did so last Wednesday, but let's please read these verses. First, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 through 5. Who wants to start? Tracy, go ahead, sir.
For I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink. For they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. Nevertheless, with most of them God was not pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness.
Paul there reminds the Christians in Corinth about those people of old, God's people, thousands of years ago, before them, right, before us, that although they were God's people, because they did not remain faithful, they perished in the wilderness. And later in verse 6, there in verse 6 and 7, in 1 Corinthians 10, Paul tells the Corinthians and tells us that these things, those things that we just read, took place as examples for us, for you and me. As we are here gathered today, it's really great to look and see how God interacts with his people. And for us to learn for us to have examples, to know what to expect. If we act a certain way, then you know what's coming. I gave this example here, that I like to use my kids, and I try to be gentle because I don't want to put them on the spot. But when you have a lot of kids, it worked with me, and I don't have a lot of kids like Rhett, but I have a few kids. Bradley's just getting started. Yes. But it will catch up. No, but the reality is, I'm not going to use my kids, I'm going to use Bradley's kids, okay? So I don't know how many kids you guys want to have, but let's say you have 5. Two. Well, watch it, because my wife didn't want us to have any, so we end up with 3. But what I'm saying is that kids actually learn from the examples. You have one child, and the first child is kind of lost, doesn't know what to expect, right? But the second one pays attention, is like, oh, my mother's spanking my brother because he did that. I guess I'm not going to do that. And then they learn from each other, because obviously it's a true reality for the kids to know what they should expect. And it worked in my family, and I'll tell you, I disciplined all of my children, but guess which one I disciplined the least? Ava, because Ava's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Oops, I'm not going to do that. Oh, she got in trouble got in trouble for doing that. And then she learned from the examples of her siblings. And we also are supposed to learn for the examples that are happening before us, so that we know how God responds when his people are unfaithful, when his people turn their back on him, when they're disobedient, when they don't listen, when they sin. It's all there for us to say, I'm not going to do that. Rhett?
Yeah, if you think about what some of the things God said about children being disobedient to parents, and you take the edge of the town in Stone.
Yeah.
But how many recorded incidents do you have in the Old Testament? None.
Not very many, yes.
So they took it serious with things like Nadab and Abihu, and some of the others.
Yeah.
I've always looked at many other countries, and even here in the United States years ago. You say you stole a horse, they hang you in public.
Yeah.
And bring everybody to see.
Yeah.
This is what happened
Yeah.
to horses.
Yeah.
People didn't really steal horses that often.
Yeah.
You'd think it was common, but it wasn't.
Yeah. Yes, and I like the repeated line in the Old Testament. They did it so that the people will, I think it's like a play on words. It's like they hear and they fear, right? They hear, they know about it, and they fear, so it doesn't happen again. And to some extent, we understand it even in our society, even in our government, right? Even in school. I mean, if kids don't get punished for disobeying Shante, their high school teacher, there's no consequences. There's no consequences for talking back to a teacher in school. I mean, not real consequences. And I'll tell you, when I was going to school, it was in a different era. And you do not talk to the teacher like that. You'll be in so much trouble if you disrespect teacher. Jim, was it like that with your age?
Yeah, definitely.
And then when something happened, then I mean, it was really crazy consequences. And a teacher would make an example of a kid so fast. So fast, so fast. I was actually reading an article about the idea of when someone is in jail, right? It's like, I don't plan to go there anytime soon. But if somebody's in jail, did you know that if it's an inmate that actually beats up a guard, that person will have a terrible existence in prison for the rest of his miserable existence in that prison? Because all the guards will really treat him terrible. I mean, they'll put him in the worst cell possible. They'll make an example out of him. We also, coming full circle again with this, we need to take these people in the Old Testament and really learn, use them as our example. Sir?
Just going off of what you and Red were saying, it got me thinking, it's funny how you can see how impactful it is when how they took the Bible out of schooling.
Yeah.
And also how disciplined, you know how back then the kids would get whipped in their hands.
Yeah.
You know, they learn all of that, and also save from wars. Now the kids get away with so much, and there's no discipline. It's kind of reported too.
Yeah.
That's how scary it is right now what we're living in these times.
It is.
So.
It is. And even when it comes to the crime, back when I was growing up, and some of you are growing up, the reason why I'm a little bit out of sync with this generation is because I live in a different country. But big deal when I was growing up in school, things you don't do is like, you can't chew gum in class, right? I mean, that was like a big crime going up. You will be out of the class so fast if you chew gum. Right now, is that a problem for you guys? Do you bug kids when they chew gum?
There are more serious things.
They're more serious things. They're bigger fishes to fry. Thank you. Yeah, and because with your little kids you might do that, but it looks like Shante is not even picking that battle.
Yeah, they're way more serious, like cursing or using their phones as opposed to chewing gum or having fun.
And it's more than that yet. You're talking, drug use and sexual promiscuity. There's so much bigger things, right? And unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of consequences, sir.
The sad thing is back when we were young, they stopped everything from the minor things at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And even here in our country, we're looking at things now that, I don't know about the rest of you, but I look and go, wow, I never thought that would happen.
Yeah.
And it didn't happen overnight. It built slowly to the point to where we are now. And it almost seems crazy, but it's self-inflicted. And I think it's the same thing when we look at God in the scriptures.
Yeah.
Look at how many different religious organizations there are out there now. Yet there's still just one Bible that says one thing. And I'm not saying that you can't see something and say, okay, well, I don't understand it quite the same way.
Yeah.
But the basics are always the basics, and they're always the simple truths.
Yeah.
It's like when you put up the plan of salvation. That hasn't changed since Acts chapter 2.
Yeah.
And yet, we got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And you just wonder, how does it happen? Well, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time.
Yeah.
And that's why we all have to be aware of what's going on. And I think that the Bible is just so relevant all the time because the principles never change.
Right. That is for sure. So because the principle never change and God doesn't change, then God is very predictable. We should know what we should expect, right? When we misbehave, when we don't obey Him, and so forth. So we also read Romans chapter 1, but I want to skip to Romans 1 and remind ourselves in verse 11, here's 1 Corinthians 10, that these things happened to them as an example, and they were written for our instruction. We have a lot of instructions that we can get from reading about these people of old. So those are examples for us. We had some quotes on the power of an example from that gentleman from a long time ago called A.C. Dredden, and I like this so much I'm going to repeat it again. He says that the Bible is a book of examples. It records the life of weak and wicked men to teach us what not to do, and the lives of the lives and deeds of great and good men that are left for us to show, how to live and what to do. And he says that the power of an example is very great for good or evil. And he continues, and he says that 75% of what we learn is what we learn and do is the result of what we see in others. 75% what we learn and what we do is what we see in others. And our influence, your influence and my influence, radiates in what we say, what we do, and what we are. And the last part, he says that man is prone to follow a bad example as well as a good one, to copy defects as well as virtues. But one thing is certain, we will follow someone's example. So the encouragement for us, where we're going with that last time when we covered this, is that let us be a good example for the people around us. Let us be a good example for our children. Let us be a good example for each other here in church, a good example when you go to work, that others can look at you and say, boy, I'm going to follow his example because he is doing so well, or she is doing so well. And this is real, that in life, when it comes to success, any kind of success that you're trying to achieve, the best way to get there is to follow someone else's example. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can if you want to, go ahead. But there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, no matter what you're trying to build, whether it's a good family, whether it's you want to have a business, or whether you want to have a great church, right, where people get along, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's everything is back there. Even, when it comes to churches, the example of the 7 churches in Asia, some were like this, some were like that, some didn't have love, some they thought they had everything. And then we look back and say, boy, what kind of church do we want to be? And then you can be that kind of person. And for you and me, it's so important for us to really set your mind on what is it that you want to achieve, and follow people's examples that have been before you, whether it's people around you right now that are alive, or even people that you don't know, in person, but you can read their books and you can read how they've achieved whatever they have achieved, and then you can follow their example. Good. And don't default, because if you don't do that, if you don't seek good example, oftentimes you can end up being stuck to follow bad example, or to be in bad company, right? We mentioned this many times, that you are the average of the top 5 people you spend most of your time with. Whether you like it or not, you become the average. Rhett.
You got the date up there, 1940. And if it was written today,
Same
it
thing.
would be just as
Right.
relevant. I mean, nothing in that would be, well, that's not up to date.
Yeah.
Truth is always up to date.
Yeah, yeah.
And just because it's a different year or a different decade,
Yeah.
a different century, it's not going to
Yeah.
change truth.
Yeah.
And that might not be from the Bible,
Yeah.
but it's a concept that just is true.
Yeah.
And the fact that he says you will follow an example, good or bad,
Yeah.
covers all ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, it's something that we need to think about.
Yeah, and we have to be intentional. I think that's really what it boils down to. There it says 75% of what we learn and do is results of what we see in others. Let us be intentional of seeking the right things we want to see in other people, and really copy, duplicate what we see in other people that we like to have in ourselves, right? Yes, sir.
It also highlights how important it is for what we do with our behavior.
Yeah.
Because as we've discussed in the past, we really don't realize how we impact or influence other people's lives.
Yeah, yeah.
These statistics show 75% of what someone does, they may have picked up from you or
Yeah.
part of it. So the patterns of our life as Christians, being the light of the world,
Yeah.
is definitely influential in
Yeah,
Scripture's
yeah,
guidance.
yeah. Absolutely. So one more statement I'll say before we go to the next slide and to some new material is that really, when you think about it, in any area of life, in any area that you're trying to achieve, the quickest path to success is to do what? To duplicate whatever somebody else is doing. Don't reinvent the wheel. If you want to be great in one area, like if one day I wake up and say, boy, I want to open a cabinet business, I'm going to go to Rhett. I'm not going to go to Jim, because although Jim has cabinets in his house, he's not the expert in the matter. So, but whether you want to be a manufacture cabinets, or if I want to be an RN, I might go to Tracy to say, Tracy, how did you become an RN? I want to go on that journey, right? I mean, it makes no sense for me to go to someone that has no idea about that field and say, can you help me get there? Or just kind of follow whatever they're doing. Well, you're not going to end up really doing with that, because that person's not being an RN. And there's so many applications that we can take from that. But remember, the quickest way to get from point A to point B is to find someone that has been there and then do whatever. Or the opposite works as well. If you look at what something happened to somebody and you don't want to have their outcome, boy, don't do what they did, okay? Don't do what they did. Instead of looking at, and really the greatest thing is that God has given us Jesus as an example. It says, him you follow. He is your example. So Hebrews chapter 12, let's please read 1 through 3. I think this is the passage we left last Wednesday. Jim, you want to read this, sir?
Yep. You got it's on. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross, despising the shame, and is sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. For consider him who endured such hostility from sinners against himself, lest you become weary and discouraged in your souls.
So in Hebrews chapter 12 here, we are encouraged to look unto Jesus. He is the author and finisher of our faith. And in other words, we are encouraged to take Jesus as an example. And as unpopular as Jesus is today, would you say that with the world, Jesus is not very popular? Go ahead. Right. So in the world, you can follow the Bible and Jesus, right? And you can be a very godly person, and you can be one of the godliest person that I was actually, Dan Peters got me hooked up on a Bible series on a YouTube channel. Really spiritually minded people came together. It's like the teachers from Florida College got together, and they had this amazing take on so many important topics of the Bible. And I looked at how many views they had. It's like 25, maybe a couple hundred on some that has been around for a lot longer. I think the biggest one that's been around for a couple of years had like maybe 2,000 views. And they are talking about such crucial matters pertaining to whether or not you're going to go to heaven or to hell. And then some other influencer, I guess, I don't know, some music pop star in her 20s says something about something really ridiculous that has no impact. And then that person ends up with millions of views because that person is so popular and she looks so pretty and she dresses very immodest. Millions of views. And who do people follow? Oh, the Bible is, I'm not going to follow the Bible. I'm going to follow whatever is appealing to the eye or whatever I decide what do I follow. But really, let us please set it in our minds and in our heads that really our example is Jesus Christ. Yes, as unpopular as that is with the world, our example is Jesus Christ. We are to look at Jesus as our example. He is what's called the author, Hebrews call Jesus the author of our faith. The author, the word there for author is archaigos, I think it's spelled in Greek. And the author is one that takes the lead in anything and thus affords an example, a predecessor in any matter. So what that means is that Jesus pioneered the path. He has blazed the trail for us by having run the race himself. What race? The race that leads to God. Many people try that race and they failed. Thousands and thousands in the wilderness end up not finishing the race. Remember, the finish line was promised land. And so many of Israelites were trying to get to the promised land. And out of the initial people that God took out of Egypt, remember how many made it? 2. That's it, Joshua and Caleb. Everybody else ended up in the desert, dead. But for us, if we take Jesus as our example and we tell ourselves, what has he done that he was successful in finishing the race? Then we can do the same. We can walk in the same steps. And the good news, brothers and sisters, is that in addition to having Jesus, we also have each other. We have among us great people of faith. They are walking with God. You can look at them and say, boy, how are they managing to be here? Right? All the time. Right? Like, I know some of you are retired or stuff, and then you don't have much else to do besides just being here. But I know a lot of people here that they do have jobs, and I'm shocked if I hear, like for instance, Tracy one day to tell me that, oh, he had to work late. The only time I'm worried about him is he forget it was Wednesday night. I think it happened twice ever since I know him. But you know, if was that? It was a holiday. It was a holiday. But other than that, given yourself any Sunday of the weekend, I'm only picking him because I know he's not going to get upset with me. There's many other examples. If it's a time to gather with the saints, I can count on Tracy to be there. And Lisa's laughing because I was coming to church today, me and my wife, because all the other kids decided to take their own transportation. And just driving on, and all of a sudden I see Tracy. It's like, where is he going? Oh, I guess he's going to church. One thing in his mind, right? But I know that is what he does every Sunday. I guarantee that he will be here. He was not going to let anything come between him and worshiping God on any Lord's Day, or not just Lord's Day, but anything that's important. He's going to be there. And that's how we are an encouragement for others, right? And when he does that, when we do that, we are blessed. He's blessed. Normally, people that put God first, they are very blessed. And then for everyone, in addition to having Christ, we also have faithful people of God, men and women, that we can look at and say, boy, how can she manage to be there always in the church? And it's not just Tracy. You know, I will give a feminine example, and I think my favorite feminine example is actually Ashley, because she's here all the time with her 15, no, not 15 kids, a big group of kids. How's that? And it's not easy, but you can count on her that she's here all the time. I mean, if she's not here, it's like something really major happened wrong. And that's what it takes. Just if you are a new mother, Shante, you know, you can look at Ashley to see how is she bringing 15 kids and I cannot bring on just one. You can. I'm sorry. I know it's not 15, but it feels sometimes like 15. Shante is like, one thing I'll do, I'm not going to have 15. Rhett?
You know, it's amazing that some parents with little kids, well, I don't want to disrupt the church, and you know, I don't want to, you know, have my kids. That's where they learn
Yes,
to sit still.
of course.
Every one of us as parents
Yes.
has gone through the agony of our kids running through the aisles, rounding them up, setting them down,
Of course.
and they're so much better for it.
Yeah.
They go better in school, they're better listeners,
Yeah.
they're better doers, and you know, church is a spiritual haven
Yes,
for us.
yes.
But it's also a learning place
Yeah.
to sit, to listen, pay attention.
Yeah.
And I think it's just great.
Yeah.
You know, kudos to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Shante?
To add on to that, I think it's a good place to learn to like respect your elders.
Yes.
And then, I had another thought about kids, but that was something like I learned,
Yeah.
you know, growing up. It's like my parents were always,
Yeah.
and priority. There we go. Putting it as a priority. It's like my parents were
Yes.
always like, we're going to church.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't even know the last time my mom missed a Sunday, and it's
Yeah.
like that's where you see like, okay, we might miss a school day for something or something like that, but like church is the
Yeah.
priority. And if you see that, and then you see also it's where you grow with other kids too,
Right.
because out in the world, it's like growing up, none of my friends in school were Christian.
Yeah.
None of them like went to church on a regular basis or anything, like all the way through college. And this, like in the church, that's where I realized there were other
Yeah.
people who were following and also to set that example for each
Yeah,
other.
yeah.
So this is really where I think you gain like that discipline that we feel like
Of course.
is lacking in other
Yeah.
aspects of life.
Right. And it's not just bringing them to church. You're bringing them to worship, to meet really Jesus and to meet other like-minded Christians. And it is very important as you're growing up, when you are a parent, some of you will be parents soon, to bring your people, your little people, your kids to church and have them learn. I think I've said this before. Lisa and I have certainly been blessed with 3 children, and all of them are adults now. Ava will be an adult this month. She'll turn 18, but I'll tell you one of the reasons why they are in church now, and I hold faith that they're going to be in church and faith for the rest of their life. It's a little play on word, but I say that when they were growing up in our family, we had a drug problem. You know what that is? We drugged them everywhere to church. We drugged them to church, we drugged them to potlucks, we drugged them to Bible studies. And then when you do that, then it just grows on them and becomes part of who they are. That's the only drug problems I ever want to have in my family. Yes, Rhett?
Well, and I think that when we, drag our children to church,
You drugged them. Yes.
but the same thing is we don't do it out of dislike for going to church.
Yes.
We want to.
Right.
We enjoy it, and we make
Yes.
it part of our lives.
Yes.
And make it important. And you hope that it sticks with them.
Right.
It doesn't always stick with them, but
Right.
you hope that it does,
Right.
or at least they'll come back to it at some point.
Right. Absolutely. So that just goes on with parenting, and definitely parenting, it's not easy. It's I would say it's the most. There's no second there. There's no one thing above. Parenting, I consider it's the most challenging thing that a human can do, especially if your mind is to help that child go to heaven and finish that finish line that Jesus, follow Jesus and to go to heaven. That's really the ultimate goal. So Jesus, author of our faith, and also he is called the perfecter of our faith. He has perfected the way of faith since he reached its end successfully. So that's what If we want to think about faith, we look at Jesus, and he is the finisher of our faith. That means he tells us how you can finish your faith. We all have all kinds of faith here, right? Some has a lot of faith, some have not so much faith. But if you want to look at someone that is finished, how does that faith product look in its completed stage? We can look at him and say, boy, I want my faith to be like Jesus' faith, because the extent to which you can model your faith by Jesus' faith, you will also bring that faith to term, right? Just like a baby, develops. 9 months later, you have the finished product, right? That's what we want to make with our faith, whatever little or lot of faith that we have. Read?
We look at Paul, and he says the same thing. He says, not that I've yet,
I have apprehended, right? I don't count myself, right?
I'm not there yet.
Yes.
But then later on, he gets to that point where he's about to die.
I'm ready,
He
yes.
says, there's a
Yeah,
kind of light later. That's confidence and faith.
Yeah.
Because Jesus led them.
Yeah, yes, and that's precisely why he was successful in the end. He's the one that says, for me, to die is death, and to live is Christ, and to die is gain. If for you live, and then you live for Christ, and if living for you is Christ, then dying for you one day will be gain, because you will have gone to the same place Jesus has gone, and that is heaven. So as a forerunner, he has entered the heavenly sanctuary, heaven. Right? Passage there says the joy set before him. And he provides all that we need to succeed. He tells us all you need to succeed. And we understand it. We talked earlier about whatever you want to become, whether you want to become a nurse or a cabinet maker, or you want to have a great marriage, or you want to be a great parent. Certainly you can go to people that have a great marriage. I mean, if you are just beginning your journey as someone that just got married a few months or years ago, right? And you think, boy, my marriage is not the best in the world. What do I do? Well, you can go to some other people that have a successful marriage and ask them, how do you do it? You don't kill your wife and she doesn't kill you. And then he'll tell you some tips, and then you implement those things, and then you can have a better marriage, right? You don't go to someone that's been divorced and remarried 15 times and say, hey, how did you do it? Obviously, you have some experience here. Eddie? Or someone that has never been married before. Go ahead, Eddie.
Good question. Right here on the board. Oh, not the board, but the screen. When it says he, do you mean to put Hebrews? Just double check.
Yeah, that's Hebrew.
Okay, thank you.
You want to read that? Why don't you read that? I'll put you on the spot. Okay, somebody else. Let's read. We are there. Let's read Hebrews chapter 6, 19 and 20. I'm telling you, oftentimes, unfortunately, is because of the bloody pride that gets in the way. You think, I know better. You have a new bride and husband to be, right? And what's stopping them to go to another couple that they've been married for twice as long as they've been alive to say, hey, how are you doing? How is this working for you? But they don't do it because you think you already know better. Right? I don't need their help. I know what to do. And it's ego. Elena? Yeah, verse.
We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure. It enters the inner sanctuary behind the curtain. Jesus has entered there on our behalf as a forerunner, because he has become a high priest forever, according to the order of Melchizedek.
I love that word. He's our forerunner. Forerunner. Right? So we understand the idea of a forerunner, somebody that goes before us. And then what is supposed to do with that forerunner? Supposed to follow that person. Follow on their steps. I like when you have like a Formula One or Indy 500, whatever, when there's an accident, there's a car that kind of goes in front, and everybody's supposed to follow that car. You can't go ahead of that car, or just follow that car. That's what Jesus is for us. We're supposed to follow him. Now, if you want to go to heaven, if you don't want to go to heaven, well, then you can choose whichever other Hollywood stars. Pick whichever one you want, because if you don't follow Jesus, you follow anybody else, you're not going to, because Jesus is the only one that shows the way, and he says, I am the way, And thank you.
We got you.
I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except by following me. No one comes to the Father except by following me. You cannot follow anybody else. Yes, but Jesus, if you want to get to heaven. And also Hebrews chapter 10, verse 20. Go ahead, Bradley. And then Lisa, maybe you can read 2 Peter 1:3. Go ahead, Brad.
By a new and living way which he consecrated for us through the veil that is his flesh.
Yeah, through his flesh, right? So think about it, and that's a very deep subject actually to think about, that the veil was his flesh. The veil was what separated the holy place from the most holy place, and through his body we get access to the Father. That's a very deep spiritual truth. If you're familiar with the temple, you have the holy place and the most holy place, and you cannot go in. No, not everybody can go to the most holy place. You have to go through a veil, right? And there we are told that Jesus' body is that veil, and through Jesus' body we can actually have access directly to the Father. Lisa, you want to read the next verse?
As his divine power has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of him who called us by glory and virtue.
Love that verse. His divine power has given us everything that pertains to life and godliness. Everything you need that pertains to life and godliness, you get through Jesus Christ. And the second part, Lisa, read it again.
Through the knowledge of him who called us by glory and virtue.
Thank you. Through the knowledge of him. So you get all things that pertain to life and godliness through the knowledge of Jesus. Through the knowledge of Jesus, by following him, you get everything that you need that pertains to life and godliness. Brad?
I want to quickly go back to the veil.
Yes.
In the temple. So we know, and I think Jim's mentioned it in previous classes, but the most holy place, the only person who could go in, and I believe it was once a year.
High priest once a year.
Was the
Yes.
high priest. And they would even tie a rope.
No, that's not biblical.
Is that not biblical?
That's not biblical. People say it, but it's just something cute that somebody invented.
Okay, because I know
That's fine.
Going with that, it's like, well, if they're not pure, they can't stand in front of them.
Right.
You know, they can't be there. But anyways,
They put the bell, yeah.
They have some bells, but they didn't have a rope. I mean, at least we don't. There may be something in their tradition, but it's not in the Bible.
well, anyways, my point was going to be, so Jesus, because he is
Yes.
the high priest, he has access.
He's gone through, yeah. He is our high priest, yes.
And in his flesh being the veil, dying
Yes.
on the cross
Yes.
for us, and then we know the veil was torn at his crucifixion.
Yes.
Meaning, because of his sacrifice, we all now have access
Yeah.
to the Father.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add that.
Very good point. But again, having access, you have to still go through that access. I mean, everybody in the community has access to come to church, but you've got to want to come to church, right? You've got to want to come inside and learn about Jesus and study the scriptures, right?
Yeah, the before John the Baptist was
Yes.
born, and his father's in
Yes.
there, and he was taking a little longer than normal.
Yes.
They were a little bit worried,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just thinking to myself, it's like, wow, I mean, they've done this
Yes.
so often.
Yes.
Okay, if you're going to go into a room
Yes.
and perform whatever duty it is, it should take about 3 to 4 minutes, and 15 minutes later, you're kind of looking at, where's he at?
Yes.
His
Yes.
deadline, and nobody wants to go in and check. That'd be
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of dangerous. But I love the fact that there in Hebrews chapter 4, in verse 16, the difference between then and now is it says, "Let us therefore come boldly to the throne of grace, that we may obtain mercy and find grace and help in time of need." It all because of Jesus
Yeah.
taking away
Yes.
the veil.
Yes.
He has now made it,
Yes.
God right there for us.
Yes.
Through him.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you again, brothers and sisters, I said this before, just like Paul, if you commit your life here on earth to make it all about Jesus, and you follow him every day, I'll tell you, On the day of judgment, you will be smiling, just like Paul. You're going to have this confidence. When you're about to die, you're going to look back at your life and say, you know, I look forward to this. There's a peace. There will be a peace about you because you have nothing to fear. If everything you've done for your entire life, you have followed Jesus, you will not be afraid on that day of judgment to stand before God. Just like Paul was not afraid when the end for him was near. I wanted to quote a passage from Vine's Expository Dictionary. He says at one point that in Hebrews chapter 12 verse 2, where Christ is called the author and perfecter of faith, he is represented as the one who takes precedence in faith and is thus the perfect example of it. Christ, in the days of his flesh drought, is that a correct word? Undeviatingly. That's a crazy word. Yes, he did not deviate from the path of faith. And as the perfecter has brought it to a perfect end in his own person. Thus he is the leader of all others who tread that path. Right? We understand that. We understand that in our day and age. If you want to go on top of Mount Everest, for instance, anybody ever woke up one day and says, I want to go to Mount Everest? Some people wake up and want to go to Mount Everest. It's fine. But if you want to be there, you want to follow someone that has been there already. Or you hire a Sherpa, who show you the way. What happens if you don't hire someone? I'm just going to go out and find my way to the top of Mount Everest. Are you going to make it?
Not even to base camp.
Not even to the base camp. And for that reason, maybe, you know that if you ever decide to go to Mount Everest, the path there is littered with what? The bodies of those that tried to get there, but they were not prepared. They didn't follow the right example. They maybe didn't have money to hire a Sherpa. Whatever reason, they didn't anticipate. And you don't end up at the top. You end up dead instead. So, but for us, if we take Jesus as our leader, Jesus as our forerunner, then we are assured that we will get to our destination safely. Jesus, because who endures such hostility from sinners? He was the one that endured hostility, and he teaches us, if we follow his example, how to endure hostilities when we face hostilities. And he endured that hostility not only on the cross, but even before the cross. Let's read just one more verse and then we will stop because our time is up. Let's read Luke chapter 4 verses 28 and 29. You're pointing on Luke to read Luke. Go ahead, Luke. Mike?
So all those in the synagogue, when they heard these things, were filled with wrath, and rose up and thrust him out of the city. And they led him to the brow of the hill on which the city was built, that they might throw him down over the cliff.
You see, people listen to Jesus, hear Jesus, and they don't like what Jesus is saying. And they want to crucify him, they want to kill him, they want to stone him. But for you and I, let it be the opposite. Let us not just be annoyed by his words, but seek him every day. Every single day. Ask ourselves, how can I learn from him today? How can I adjust the course to make sure that I am following him? Every day, for the rest of your life. And it will be worth it, because our very short life will be ended very soon. I was talking to my mother on the phone, and she has some pains and stuff, and she's like, oh, I'm doing so horrible because I'm old. And, I love my mother, but she loves to complain a lot. It's okay. She doesn't have the understanding of Jesus and, looking forward to eternity in heaven. But I tell her, guess what? I am 20 some years behind you. I'll be like you one day. Everybody's going to get old one day. And everybody, when we get old, things starts to hurt. Yes, old age is terrible. I was trying to be a very empathetic son. Yes. I don't know if I made it worse probably, but we all going to one day, going to get old. And it's going to happen just like that. Just like that. It was like yesterday when I got married and I was in my 20s. And now, I'm in my 50s. Like it was yesterday. I have pictures and I have the memories and the videos. I could go just like that. And now I'm in my 50s. And now just another 20 years and I'll be old like my mother. Hopefully I won't complain. If I do, please shake me up and put me in my place. Because, it's right. Old age is terrible, but it will come. So prepare yourself now when you still have strength. And when that day comes, maybe you'll be like Joshua, who even though you're old, you still have strength. And you still had a great attitude, right? Let us be like Joshua. All right. Let us please, and Caleb too for that matter, let us please take a break. We'll be back for worship in 15 minutes. Thank you.